you are listening to this podcast, the chances are very high that you understand English. But what if you didn't? What if your target audience didn't? Or what if your target audience did understand but felt more comfortable in their own mother tongue? Of course, doing this for a podcast is a bit tougher, as it may involve having the podcast host, me, become fluent in another language. But for blogs and written content, it's a bit easier. Just translate your content. The not so obvious question, though, is how. There are two main alternatives. Number one is custom translations. On the surface, this merely involves sending the English text to a translator and posting the results on your website. Dig under the covers, though. The reality is a lot more complex. There are quite a few steps. Choose the dialect of the translation based on your target audience. The Spanish, for example, used in Spain and Argentina and Miami are very different, as is the French from Quebec versus the French in France. The next step, choose a translator. A North American translator will understand your local context far better than someone who lives abroad. The next step, send the final text to them for translation. Next, you need to find an independent local person who can review and verify that the translation is actually correct. You'll then make revisions, and this involves some back and forth between the reviewer and the translator. You'll post the translation online, and then you have to proofread the post to make sure that the characters and the encoding and all the accents all came through correctly. And you need to test it in a few browsers. The second alternative is to use Google Translate. This usually involves putting a small bit of code on each website page. When a user gets to that page, they use a drop-down menu to choose a language for the translation. This solution is cheap and fast and convenient. Unfortunately, it is not always the best. Beyond Google, some browsers will detect that the language served isn't the default, and they'll offer to translate the content as well. Both cases, there's some downsides. The first is the system doesn't take into account either dialect or localization. The system is literally a system. It makes mistakes. And it doesn't translate graphics. It translates English-only names into French if it thinks that the names are actually words. And if the user relies on the page for legal purposes, an automated translation, which may change as Google's translation algorithm changes, would be inappropriate. Unfortunately, many organizations are not thinking beyond the bilingual, and those who are may not be thinking of the pros and cons of these two alternatives. So here's your challenge. What would it take to add another language to your website? This week, look carefully at your target audiences and ask whether there is an important enough group to justify a translation. If you had to choose 3 languages, what would they be? And here's another bonus insight. One need not duplicate or triplicate an entire website. Consider making each language site a 5 or 10 page microsite, and then expand from there. Even 1 page per extra language is a good start. And by the way, here's a postscript. You think a trilingual site is hard? How about a 1,200 page site with 40 languages? Yep, I've been there and done that too. I hope these thoughts got you thinking. If it resonates, let me know why and if I can help. I'm Randall Craig, and you can reach me at www.randallcraig.com.